Imagine it is the end of a long day. You are tired. Your mind feels heavy. Work was stressful. Maybe someone criticized you. Maybe something didn't go the way you hoped. Maybe you simply feel overwhelmed. You open your phone. You scroll through an online store. Shoes, clothes, gadgets, home decorations, skincare products. Suddenly something catches your attention. You click, you add it to the cart, you buy it. For a brief moment, something changes inside you. Your mood lifts, you feel lighter. A small spark of excitement appears. But a few hours later or the next day, that feeling fades. And sometimes you even wonder, why did I buy that? This pattern happens to millions of people around the world. Psychologists even have a name for it: stress shopping, retail therapy. But why does this happen? Why do our brains connect emotional stress with buying things? To understand this, we need to explore something deeper about how the human mind works. Shopping when stressed is not really about products. It is about emotion regulation. And to understand that, we must first understand what stress does to the brain. Stress is not just a feeling, it is a biological state. When something threatens our goals, identity, safety, or stability, our brain activates the stress response system. Hormones like cortisol and adrenaline rise. Our body becomes alert and tense. This system originally evolved to protect us from physical danger. Thousands of years ago, stress helped humans survive predators, harsh environments, and immediate threats, but modern stress is different. Today, stress often comes from invisible things: deadlines, relationships, financial worries, social pressure, or uncertainty about the future. These stressors are not things we can fight or run away from. Instead, they sit in our minds. And when stress stays in the mind for too long, the brain looks for ways to reduce that discomfort. One powerful method is reward seeking. And this is where shopping enters the picture. Inside the brain is a system designed to motivate us to pursue things that help survival. Food triggers it. Social connection triggers it. Achievement triggers it. The system runs on a neurotransmitter called dopamine. Dopamine is not exactly the chemical of happiness. Instead, it is the chemical of anticipation and motivation. It tells the brain that something rewarding might happen. And interestingly, dopamine spikes before we receive the reward. It spikes during anticipation. Shopping is one of the modern activities that strongly activates the system. When you browse products, compare options, and imagine owning something new, the brain begins releasing dopamine. In other words, your brain is saying, something good might be coming. This small wave of reward temporarily pushes away the feeling of stress. A study published in the Journal of Consumer Psychology, Rick, Pereira and Burson, 2014, found that making purchase decisions can reduce feelings of sadness because it restores a sense of control. Participants who made choices about products reported significantly lower negative emotions compared to those who were not allowed to choose. So, in stressful moments, shopping becomes a quick emotional tool. It is like opening a window in a stuffy room. Fresh air rushes in. For a moment, everything feels better. But the air does not last forever. Stress often comes from one central psychological experience: feeling powerless. When life becomes unpredictable, when outcomes feel uncertain, the mind begins to search for areas where control can be regained. Shopping provides exactly that. When you shop, you control everything. You choose the product, you choose the color, you choose the price, you decide when to buy. For a brief moment, the brain experiences something powerful: agency. You are making decisions. You are influencing an outcome. This is why even browsing online stores can feel strangely comforting during stressful moments. A study from Stanford University, Dunn, Gilbert, and Wilson, 2011, showed that people experience a sense of personal empowerment when making purchasing choices, even small ones. It is not the product that matters. It is the act of choosing. Think of stress like being trapped in a storm at sea. The waves are large. The wind is strong. The ocean feels uncontrollable. Shopping is like grabbing a small steering wheel. You may not control the ocean, but at least you can turn something. Another reason people shop when stressed is something psychologists call emotional substitution. This means replacing one emotional state with another. Stress feels heavy, tense, and unpleasant. Shopping introduces a different emotional experience: curiosity, excitement, anticipation. It is like replacing a dark cloud with fireworks. The brain quickly switches emotional gears. You start imagining how the new product will improve your life. Maybe the new shoes will make you feel confident. Maybe the new gadget will make life easier. Maybe the new outfit will make you feel attractive. The mind begins to create small future fantasies, and those fantasies are powerful. They create emotional relief. A study published in Psychology and Marketing, Atale and Malloy, 2011, found that browsing products activates mental simulations of future enjoyment, which can temporarily increase positive emotions. In other words, the brain begins to simulate happiness, even before the product arrives. When we buy things, we are often buying something deeper than the object itself. We are buying a version of ourselves. A better self, a more organized self, a more successful self, a more attractive self. Think about how products are advertised. A watch is not just a watch. It represents confidence. A gym membership is not just exercise. It represents discipline. A notebook is not just paper. It represents productivity. Shopping becomes a bridge between the current self and the imagined future self. When people are stressed, they often feel disappointed in the present version of themselves. Buying something becomes a symbolic reset. It whispers to the brain, things will improve. But often the product cannot actually deliver that transformation, and this leads to the next stage. The emotional pattern of stress shopping often follows a cycle. First comes stress. Second comes searching. Third comes shopping. The brain experiences dopamine and anticipation. Fourth comes temporary relief. Mood improves. But later comes emotional drop. The excitement fades. Sometimes guilt or regret appears. Then stress returns, and the cycle begins again. A large behavioral study from the University of Michigan, Atale and Malloy, 2011, found that retail therapy can temporarily reduce sadness, but does not provide long-term emotional improvement. This is why people may repeat the behavior. Shopping works, but only for a short time. It is like drinking salty water when thirsty. It feels helpful at first, but it does not solve the real need. In the past, shopping required effort. People had to travel to stores, walk through aisles, and interact with others. Today, the process is different. Online shopping is frictionless. A product can appear on your phone instantly. Payment takes seconds. Delivery arrives at your door. This convenience removes the natural barriers that once slowed impulsive decisions. But there is another psychological factor. Online stores are designed to stimulate the reward system. Bright images, endless scrolling, personalized recommendations. These features keep the brain engaged in continuous anticipation. The system is similar to social media. You never know what interesting thing might appear next. And that uncertainty keeps dopamine active. Some behavioral scientists compare online shopping platforms to slot machines for the brain. Each scroll might reveal something exciting, and that possibility keeps people scrolling. To understand stress shopping fully, we must also look at the environment we live in. Modern life contains many psychological pressures. People compare themselves constantly through social media. Economic uncertainty creates financial stress. Work demands are intense. And at the same time, society sends a strong message. Consumption equals happiness. Advertisements tell us that the next purchase will improve our lives. A better phone, a better home, a better lifestyle. These messages shape our subconscious beliefs. When stress appears, the brain naturally turns toward consumption as a solution. It has been trained to do so. Shopping becomes a modern emotional coping mechanism, not very different from how people might turn to food, alcohol, or entertainment to regulate mood. When we look closely, shopping when stressed is rarely about material desire. Instead, it usually reflects deeper psychological needs. People may be seeking comfort, validation, excitement, escape, control, hope. A new product acts like a small emotional symbol. It represents a moment of change. But the real need often lies elsewhere. Maybe someone needs rest. Maybe someone needs emotional support. Maybe someone needs a sense of meaning. When those deeper needs are unmet, the brain looks for substitutes. Shopping becomes one of the easiest substitutes available. A useful metaphor for understanding this behavior is to imagine the mind as a thermostat. A thermostat tries to keep temperature balanced. If the room becomes too cold, the heater turns on. If it becomes too hot, the cooling system activates. In a similar way, the mind tries to regulate emotional balance. When stress rises too high, the brain looks for ways to reduce discomfort. Shopping is one of those quick adjustment tools. It lowers emotional temperature for a moment, but because it does not address the deeper source of stress, the balance eventually shifts again. So the thermostat keeps activating the same solution again and again. And again, understanding why we shop when stressed does not mean shopping is always bad. Buying things can be enjoyable and meaningful, but problems appear when shopping becomes the primary method of emotional regulation. Psychologists often recommend replacing impulsive behaviors with more sustainable coping strategies. Activities that calm the nervous system, physical movement, talking to someone trusted, writing thoughts down, taking a break from screens, practicing mindfulness. These methods may not produce the instant dopamine spike that shopping does, but they address the emotional system more deeply. Over time, they build resilience. And resilience reduces the need for quick emotional escapes. So the next time you feel the urge to buy something when stressed, it may be helpful to pause and ask a simple question. Not, do I need this product? But something deeper. What feeling am I trying to change? That question reveals something important, because stress shopping is not about objects. It is about emotions. And once we understand the emotion behind the behavior, we gain something powerful. Awareness. And awareness is the first step toward freedom. Thanks for watching.